Hey, it's Drybear. Now that I finished my first playthrough of Baldur's Gate 3, it is time to start diving into some deep and highly analytical build guides for playstyles in Baldur's Gate. And today I'm going to walk you through my Stormsbane build, which is a lightning-focused caster with tons of defense and insane damage output. I've cleared an entire screen with one lightning bolt so far, and we'll talk about everything I learned in my first playthrough, as well as how to build the Stormsbane. But first, you should come hang out with me on live stream. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/Drybear. If you don't come hang out with me in the community, the next time you realize there's a trap in front of you, your teammates that are following behind you in Groot mode are going to accidentally walk into it right as you're trying to disarm it. All right, so right up front, I'll give you guys the sheet that you can screenshot. So you can either screenshot this as of now, or I'll have it down in the description and in the comments, a link where you can download this image online. And this goes through step by step every single level that you should apply, what you should unlock, including feats, sorcery points, what class to start with, what cantrips and spells you should pick up, and at what stage you should grab them, the starting stats at the top middle of the screen, and all of the items that I think are very useful for this kind of build, and mostly where to find them. There's one or two that I've been taking notes furiously through my playthroughs. I'm taking better notes in my second playthrough, but I'm trying to remember where everything is. There's two items on here I actually don't remember where to get them, but the other ones I did have notes on, so I'll have those on screen as well. And at the very top, you can see where to get those most important items, and then some tips and tricks on how to use the build. Now, we'll go into all of the specifics here, but for the people that just want to use the build and they want to use this and they have everything, I'll put it at the front of the video. You can copy this, screenshot it, and use it while referencing. But the general progression of this is you do want to start Sorcerer as a Storm Magic Sorcerer. Your starting stats are going to be 10 Strength, 14 Dex, 14 Con, 10 Int, 10 Wisdom, and 17 Charisma. You will be a Charisma-focused spellcaster, which means you can do dialogue for your group. And I like Storm Magic here. You can go Draconic Bloodline with Lightning, but I think Storm Magic is a lot more flexible because with Storm Magic, every time you cast a Lightning spell, you will get the opportunity to fly around the arena, which makes this super useful, especially for spells that require specific placement, like Lightning Bolt, which is a giant line. Being able to fly every time you cast a spell makes this build insanely flexible and high bursting as well. Then for level 2 and 3, we're going to go directly into Cleric and unlock the Tempest domain. We do this for a couple reasons. The first one is we get proficiencies in heavy armor and shielding, so we'll be able to wear good armor and have good armor class, which is going to help us survive. It also gives us the ability to cast Create Water, which applies the wet condition, which you can see next to my head there. This one, when a target is wet, they are vulnerable to lightning and cold damage, which makes all of our damage go up, which is nice. And then at level 2 Cleric, which is level 3 overall, we'll get access to Channel Divinity, and we're going to choose Destructive Wrath. And when we have this, once per encounter, when you roll thunder or lightning damage, you get the opportunity to Channel Divinity and deal maximum damage instead. And this is best used when you have your debuffs up, like the target is wet, you have advantage, you have whatever blessings you need to keep yourself super buffed. And then if you can get a big AoE using either Shatter or even Thunder Wave early on, and then later on in the game, once you're level 7 and above, you can use Lightning Bolt. And like I said, I have used Channel Divinity on wet with 5 stacks of the lightning charges, and I have one-shot like 7 mobs in one lightning bolt across the screen and brought a boss down to like a third or a half in a single cast. It's insanely bursty. Now keep in mind that early game, Thunder is going to outperform Lightning just because Thunder has a higher base damage, and most of the scaling value you get from lightning damage comes later on in the game. And so for the first couple levels, you're going to be relying on Chromatic Orb, probably focus on lightning or on thunder the most because it's going to give you higher base damage. So kind of rely on that. You can use Shocking Grasp in melee range, do some nice burst there. And then of course, if you need to with other abilities, you can deal damage that way. But Thunder is where you're going to be starting out. At level 5, when we get Quicken Spell, we also have Shatter, which is super nice. And this does AoE thunder damage. And everything really comes together around level 7 once we get Lightning Bolt. And that's when things just absolutely get out of control because we have incredible amounts of damage burst. Moving on from level 3, when you get Destructive Wrath of Cleric, we're going to go directly back into Sorcerer. For your first two, your meta magics, we're going to pick up Twin Spell and Distant Spell. Twin Spell is super nice for your single target cast. It allows you to hit 2 targets with a spell that normally only hits 1. So again, Chromatic Orb is super nice for this. And then at level 5, we're going to pick up Quickened Spell, which means that you can spend 3 sorcery points to make your next cast cost a bonus action instead of an action, which means you can Lightning Bolt twice in a single turn by using bonus action and your normal action for casting. It's actually ridiculous. I've literally cleared an entire group of enemies in a single turn just because we had lightning damage across the entire screen. For your first feat at level 6, I like getting the ability score improvement with Charisma +2. This will bring you to Charisma 9. And then once you get to Sorcerer 8, you can pick up the feat Actor, which gives you 1 more Charisma and bonus to Intimidation, which is super nice. And that gives you your 20 Charisma score for the maximum proficiency bonus that you'll get from your stats. Other options for feats, you can also get Warcaster, which allows you to cast Lightning Grasp or Storm Grasp, like right when someone gets next to you and they walk away. Gives you a bunch of extra lightning damage, especially since you're going to be heavily armored from Cleric and wearing a shield, which is really nice. You'll be able to get some extra bonuses from that overall. From the Tempest Cleric, we also have the reaction that when someone attacks you, you can hit them back with lightning or thunder damage as a reaction, which is super strong. Heart of the Storm is very nice, especially when you pick up Cast Lightning, the Call Lightning, the big AoE. You put Heart of the Storm on top of that, and you can create a nice big area of effect on top of that, and then you get a whole bunch of sorcery points later on. My recommended spell list is there next to the individual choices for your class bonuses and things like that. This is just recommended. You can pick up whatever you want. The main focuses that you're going to want are going to be Shocking Grasp, Thunder Wave, Create Water. You will want Shatter, at least for a couple levels. Lightning Bolt, I think Counterspell is super nice. Misty Step is very, very nice for using Lightning Bolt properly. Haste is good, Greater Invisibility, and you can do Cone of Cold as well, because when targets are wet, they do scale cold damage in AoE, which is pretty nice as well. Now for items, there's a bunch of really cool options here. These are the ones that I recommend, but there's more in the game than just these. The first one I want to talk about is the icon in the bottom left of the items, which is the Rain Dancer's Staff, which you can get very early on. One of the easiest ways to get it is when you get to the Druid's Grove in Act 1, which is the very start of the game, go to the vendor, the Halfling, and you will be able to buy it from him. This is a green staff that gives you the ability to cast Create Water for just an action, no spell slot. So you don't spend a spell slot to cause the wet condition. And what I found is, especially once we get the Rain Dancer online, I like giving it to my support character and then having them spend their first turn applying the Create Water wet status effect. And since, again, it won't cost a spell slot for them, they can just spend their first turn applying wet, and then your character can just go to town nuking with lightning damage to do some extra bonuses there. The Blast Pendant is super nice. This one you will need lightning charges to utilize, but it does give you some nice damage increase. This is found in the Underdark on one of the Dwergars. That's all I'll say. The Water Sparkers you can find inside the Goblin Stronghold next to Minthara, and this will allow you to stand in water and cause that water to become electrified just by standing in it. And if you end your turn, which means you start your turn inside of an electrified surface, you gain lightning charges. So not only can you deal lightning damage by standing in water, and you're creating water puddles anyways, you can gain lightning charges, which allows you to gain bonus lightning damage on casts and allows you to use the Blast Pendant for Lightning Blast as well. And the Sparks Wall is a very useful ring to run with Water Sparkers. You find it in the Arcane Tower basement in the Underdark in Act 1. And when you pick this up and put it on, you can no longer be electrocuted. So you gain resistance to lightning damage, but most importantly, you can't be electrocuted, which means when you're using the Water Sparkers and you electrify the water and you stand in it, nothing happens. You're immune to it and everyone around you is not, so you get a lot of extra bonuses from that. I also find the Gloves of Belligerent Skies super useful. I don't remember where I got this, but this one works especially for thunder damage, but it does give you some nice extra spread. When the wearer deals thunder lightning damage, you inflict 2 turns of reverberation, which can give you extra procs of damage every time you cast thunder or lightning spells. And I like Vivacious Cloak a lot as well. Even though we're pretty tanky with the cleric armor, we will be able to get a bonus HP when we cast a spell while in melee range, which is super nice, especially if you're using Shocking Grasp. Now, let me show you what options you have available here. I'm inside the campsite. I've turned the camera so you can't see other things that are going on behind me, and I'm using characters in my party that you would recognize from the very beginning of the game, so hopefully this is all spoiler free. I'm just gonna talk about the abilities for this focus. Your number one ability in early game, like I said, is going to be Chromatic Orb. You get the choice to choose which element you want to use. And like I said, early on in the game, you do want to pick up using Thunder instead of Lightning because the base damage is higher. You'll get more damage out of it right off the bat. So you want to be casting this against targets while you're using it. And then as you move further onto the game, you'll start using Lightning more once you get the extra benefits of having those things active, which is super nice. You also have Shocking Grasp for melee. This is super good. And also if you run with the feat Warcaster, it means that you get to cast Shocking Grasp on people that pass by. Super useful, lots of extra damage. Call Lightning is another big one. This one has an AoE damage on top of it. And like I said, you can do Heart of the Storm on this to do even more damage. And this works great, especially when you're using like the Create Water surface. So when you use Create Water and you kind of create this water here, you can electrify it with Call Lightning, use Heart of the Storm, and get lots of extra bonus damage here, which is really, really cool. And again, when you put the water down and then you step on top of it while wearing the water sparkers and in combat, it will actually give you that extra bonus there, which is super nice. Another item I didn't mention, which is super good, is going to be the Real Sparky Sparks Wall. This is a shield that you can pick up early in the game, and it does give you Lightning Aura, which allows you to consume 3 lightning charges and do lightning in an area, and will trigger extra bonuses from lightning as well, which makes it very, very flexible. Remember that if you don't have a Rain Dancer or you don't have any spell slots to spend on Create Water, you can just throw a water bottle and that will create a surface as well, which does give you the option to do the same thing with lightning to electrify it and apply the wet status effect. So while you're looting things and finding water bottles, you can use those as an offensive tool for your character as well. For meta magic, you'll start with Twinned Spell and Distant Spell. This makes you super flexible. You can sit at the back and use Distant Spell. I love using Twinned Spell early on, especially with Chromatic Orb Thunder, because then you can hit 2 targets really hard with some thunder damage. And then the big creme de la creme is when you unlock Quickened Spell, which allows you to activate this, and then your next spell cast will cost a bonus action instead of an action, and then you can cast another spell again afterwards. So you can do like Lightning Bolt twice and do insane bursts of damage in large AoE. You can also do Call Lightning. Shatter early on is really nice too. Shatter does a lot of damage in AoE, gives you a lot of extra bonuses, and you can hit a lot of targets with this and destroy things. For more mobility, I think you should either run Githyanki for the free Misty Step or unlock Misty Step yourself, which gives you a lot of options for teleporting around the arena, avoiding opportunity attacks when you leave someone, and getting up on elevation for high ground bonuses, which is super nice. But one of the biggest benefits of running teleportation like Misty Step is going to be utilizing your Lightning Bolt the best. So if you didn't know, Lightning Bolt is one of the best lightning spells in the game, has super awesome, very satisfying sound effects, but it's also a massive, massive line. You can see how far this line goes on my screen. It's just a giant screw you lightning bolt across the entire screen, and it rolls pretty high damage. I mean, it's 8d6 lightning, and if you have the extra bonus to ignore lightning resistance, you can make that even stronger. And remember, we can also channel Divinity on this to guarantee maximum damage on top of the wet status effect, which gives vulnerability to lightning. All of that is super cool. So you can even, and then you can run Quickened Spell to cast Lightning Bolt and then cast it again to massive damage. You can even increase it up to a higher level, making 66 guaranteed, plus wet, plus lightning charges on top of it. You can absolutely destroy. But what's great about this is because this is a lined attack and sometimes teammates are in the way or enemies are spread out, you can use Misty Step to get the perfect line on your enemies and then cast Lightning Bolt to hit as many targets as you want. I like getting like as many in a line, including the boss, and then all the small ads die, and then the boss just took a huge chunk of damage. You can cast it multiple times, which is really, really nice. Remember, from Tempest Cleric, you're also going to get Wrath of the Storm, which means that if an enemy attacks you that is close by, you can retaliate with a strike. I usually just let this go off. I turned off Thunder and set it to Lightning because they do the same amount of damage, and Lightning's just better for us, which is good. And that's super useful. As far as utility goes, there's a bunch of options you can choose from, I think, in general for spells. For early game, I like getting things like Thunder Wave just because you can knock enemies off cliffs. You can reposition enemies. Picking up Gust of Wind is nice because you can also get a higher chance of knocking back enemies off cliffs, but also allows you to clear out clouds. So if there's a gas cloud or a poison cloud or even a blinding cloud, you can blow it away to get rid of it and get rid of that problem. Haste is super nice. You get an extra attack and you become a little bit harder to hit, which is good. You get a little bit of movement from it as well. Counterspell is, I think, very useful for some areas because there's a lot of scary casters that exist. You can also run Polymorph or Banishment for CC. Greater Invisibility is massive for being able to avoid getting attacked because you can then walk away. They lose track of you. Even if you're too far away, they'll cast Reveal. They can't find you, and it sets you up for advantage for your next big lightning unleash. And I do like picking up Cone of Cold just because when they're wet, they take extra. They're vulnerable to cold damage, and it does do quite a lot of damage on top of that. For party members, you have a lot of options, but because you are a charisma-focused character, you will be able to handle all of the dialogue for your party, which you don't need that, and you will be able to do the range damage and the nuking for just kind of taking targets out. For this, I love running with my Bone Grinder build, which is a 8 champion fighter with a 4 barbarian berserker, super strong, and then you want probably like a life cleric or a mixed land druid to get the extra healing, and then you want some utility. Either Infiltrator can work really well at this, or even Abyss Walker, or just True Rogue. If you want to just kind of do full Thief or Assassin, both those work great. They'll just focus on disarming traps, revealing things, setting up surprise attacks, things like that. And that creates a very stable and bursty party. And hopefully this covers all of the gameplay. Now, this is my first detailed build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. So I'll be working on things like this screen here that, obviously can use some work, but hopefully is a good starting point for people to really figure out where to go and what to do. And of course, I tried to make this as spoiler-free as possible with just general directions on where everything is without showing any specifics, just location of the items and what to pick as you go through the game. So if you found value in the video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and I'll see you on my live stream. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.